This is a short tour of Blessed Sacrament Church in Stowe, Vermont on Mountain Road. It was built in 1948 in memory of Brother Joseph Dutton, who lived between the years 1843 and 1931. He was born on this site. Around the church are panels which commemorate the life of Saint Damien of Molokai and Brother Dutton. And here are some descriptions of these panels. The first. Father Damien was at his usual post of observation, a cluster of rocks on the beach on the morning that saw the arrival of Brother Dutton. The boat grated on the sand and the American stepped ashore to meet the priest. While the latter surveyed him curiously, Dutton briefly explained his ambition and position, and stated that he wished no remuneration. He had credentials, letters of consent and approval from Bishop Cockman and the Board of Health. As Dutton calmly and unflinchingly gazed upon each successive horror, the priest instinctively seemed to know, without any superfluity of words, that at last here was someone who would understand him, who would work with him in harmony and accord. In the twilight of a fast-ebbing life, Damien was to learn that he had found the most precious of human gifts, the jewel of friendship. Damien, as his death approached, was to engage himself in a fever of activity that became almost frantic, with the inroads of disease giving him the same weaknesses as extreme age. He, many times because of failing memory, would leave unfinished a task to commence a new one, and the unfinished task would be sure to be completed by the faithful and tactful Dutton, who, following behind, would carefully attack all problems with a methodical carefulness born of his army training, a schooling he never forgot. Dutton was to take care of the two churches and to assist, although he doubted his worthiness, the priest at Mass. As the latter's hands were rapidly becoming too swollen to be of such use, it was also agreed that the newcomer would gradually assume the unpleasant duty of dressing and washing the sores of the lepers at the hospital. Here we see Father Damien in the Confessional. I, Damien, have also buried a large number. The average of deaths is at least one a day. Many are so destitute that there is nothing to defray their burial expenses. They are simply wrapped in a blanket. As far as my duties allow me time, I make coffins myself for these poor people. Bad weather would occasionally cause a capsize and, of course, the loss of provisions. Many a time there was enacted the tragedy of starving lepers standing on the sea-beaten beach and watching with anguished eyes while their only hopes for food were engulfed by the angry waves. These were the conditions when the priest came to Molokai. He rapidly caused a change. There is so much left to do. A horizon of achievement continued to beckon him. A new chapel was planned, and at the hospital a new building was commenced. In vain Dutton begged him to desist, to rest. His only answer was, "Off I am, Brother Joseph." And although his pace was sometimes but a stagger, off he would go. His grave was dug in the cool shadow of the pandanus tree, and around it the long line of mourners shuffled in sad and grotesque parade, clad in the pitiful paraphernalia of the burying associations he had founded. Their friend Camiano was dead, but they did not want to accept the mournful fact that he had gone, and even when the grave was filled they refused to go. They sat on the ground, beating their breasts, swaying their bodies with misery, after the custom of their ancestors. Another priest came to minister to the spiritual wants of the colony. Sisters came to aid in the work, but Dutton's work went on increasing. About this time, Robert Louis Stevenson, the well-known author, came to visit Molokai and was shown about by Brother Dutton. Well-to-do businessmen in Honolulu, neither of whom was a Catholic, donated money for a boys' home and a girls' home respectively. And when the United States government took over the islands, conditions improved still more. When in 1908 President Theodore Roosevelt sent 16 battleships around the world, he learned that Brother Joseph earnestly hoped they might pass by Molokai. Immediately he wired the ships to go by the leper colony in battle formation. And so a grey-haired old man stood on the shore, surrounded by his lepers, his hat on his breast and head erect, while 16 great ships of the United States Navy steamed slowly by and dipped their flags in salute to the aging veteran. This from a booklet on Brother Dutton, written by Father McDonough. Among the sisters who came towards the end of Father Damien's life was St. Marianne Cope, a sister of St. Francis, who was canonized by Pope Benedict XVI on October 21st, 2012. Here we have some views of the very lovely interior of the church, and around the church are 36 windows on the east and west sides painted by André Girard, depicting scenes from the life of Christ. And here they are: the apparition of the Blessed Virgin Mary at La Salette, the Blessed Virgin among the angels, the Blessed Virgin as a child, the Annunciation, the Nativity, the flight into Egypt, Jesus among the doctors when he was found in the temple, the Holy Family, Jesus tempted by the devil, the baptism of Jesus, the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus with Andrew and John, the first disciples, Jesus preaching among the fishermen, suffer the little children to come unto me, Jesus preaching to his disciples, Jesus and the Pharisees, Jesus and the lepers, Jesus calming the disciples in the boat, the raising of Lazarus, Jesus walking on the waters, the Transfiguration, the wedding feast at Cana, Jesus and the woman at the well, the paralytic, take up thy bed and walk, Jesus and the adulteress, the Last Supper, the agony in the garden, Jesus wakes his disciples, the kiss of Judas, the mocking of Jesus, the resurrection, on the road to Emmaus, Jesus appears to his disciples, the Sacred Heart, St. Paul, the crucifixion of St. Peter. I hope you have enjoyed this tour of Blessed Sacrament Church, Stowe in Vermont, which I dedicate to the parish priest, my good friend Father Benedict Keeley, and the parishioners who attended the mission that I preached at the launch of this year of faith proclaimed by Pope Benedict XVI. As Pope Benedict said, faith grows when it is lived as an experience of love received and when it is communicated as an experience of grace and joy. May you experience this grace and joy in this year of faith by greater devotion to the Blessed Sacrament and serving Christ in the most poor, needy of our neighbours, after the example of St. Damien of Molokai and Brother Dutton. May God bless you.